Welcome to the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi After the Show podcast.
My mom is home from the hospital. Yay! And she is still in recovery at home. So that's a road, and that's, I'm going to be at her house a lot, Murphy, although I will be sleeping at home again.
Yeah.
But I wanted to share, she was in the hospital for 8 days, and they ran together. And I wanted to share some of the lessons I learned in living this way for 8 days. When I say that, I was at the hospital most. I could probably check my activity on my device that tracks me, where I was and all that. But I was there as much as I could be. And then I was here some at work. And then I was at home the least, probably.
You spent nights at the hospital, didn't you?
I'd spent some nights at the hospital. And then some nights I would stay really late and go home. Luckily, we lived near the hospital where she was admitted. And then I would go back early. I think there was one night in particular she didn't know I had left. I had gone home and taken a shower. That's when our dog Champ would watch me shower. He was standing there like, "What are you coming home in the middle of the night for, Mom?" It was so funny.
I was really worried about you in that week. I mean, you're talking about
I was too.
A lot of time compressed into 8 days because you did not. I don't think you would spend a couple of hours sleeping initially after your mom was in intensive care, but she had gone to a room, then went back in intensive care. And then it's like this crazy, I want to say miraculous turnaround. It's weird. The improvement accelerated out of the blue.
She had some rough nights, but the improvement came in these last couple of days.
Right.
And it's just getting better. Now she has some recovery. She has some PT and things like that. But anyway, so proud of her and so happy about that. But I had never in my life, I've had family members be in the hospital, and I had visited them, of course, but I had never done this. And there is so much to be learned. And I think I mentioned it on the show, but let's deep dive this right here, right now. If you ever become a caregiver for someone who's in some sort of extended care or short-term care, it doesn't matter. One of my biggest lessons, and I want to share this, is what you can do is help your patient with the mental. Let the professionals help them with the medical. I know we touched on that a little bit, but I realized a few days in, I don't need to learn what everything on the screen means. I don't need to learn about the pulse ox. I want to know, but that's their expertise. That's what they went to school for. I found that the best thing that I could offer her is encouragement, and just talking to her and just being there. And I think you need to remember that, because you don't need to be, oh, your pulse needs to be this, or your oxygen. Now, you will naturally do that for someone that you love. Yeah. You will learn what those numbers mean quickly.
Yeah, you were really about that. I mean, I think you certainly cared to learn enough about them, but in the first couple of days, you were trying to manage them, and I think when you let go of that part, that helped. Yeah. But that's natural. That's who you are. You're wanting to, it's your mom. You're wanting to protect her. Yeah. But you really were. If a number was slightly off or something would beep, Jodi was immediately, getting the nurses and that sort of thing.
It is
you called it pulse socks. These are
ox.
Oh, pulse ox. Oh,
there was like a pulse ox test.
I was like, pulse socks? What are those?
And look, I would ask questions. The nurse would come in and say, "Oh yeah, this is just your blankety blank," and I would be like, "What's that?" And they would explain things to me. But I didn't try to do that overly to where I'm trying to learn it. I'm just a curious person. But I realized that's what you have if you want to do something for your person, because there is a component of the mental health also for someone in the hospital. There is a whole component of that, especially what my mom was going through. She was very nervous about what she had to go through. It was a big surgery. And so it's an emotional roller coaster for her more than I could even understand.
Sure.
I'm only sharing my experience as that, a caregiver, her daughter. And I can tell you, I am trying to let go of that anxiety that is still in me.
Which is really about caring for yourself, your own mental state.
I know it. But there's a whole mental health side of it that for her, I will never know, because she was very scared going in. She had some very rough nights. And then when she was told she could go home, which is not very long ago, I mean, she was like, "Oh, really?" So it's highs and lows and highs and lows.
Mm-hmm.
But you focus on your mental, your patient's mental in whatever ways you can. I played music for her. Murphy brought my little speaker up there, my Bluetooth speaker, and I played music in the room when I could. I just held her hand at times. We made little jokes. Taylor and Phoebe, her granddaughters, came, and that was the best. In fact, that's one of my favorite stories because she was having a rough couple of days in the ICU. And so her nurse, Danica, knew the stressed out patient, knew the difficulties. And then Taylor and Phoebe came on the same day at the same time. And I was outside looking in through the window with Danica, and Danica goes, "Who's that?" Meaning my mom was laughing and smiling, and the nurse had not seen that yet.
Okay.
We called it grandchild magic.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a real magic there.
It's true. It's true. So that was something that I learned, and I'll always remember that. Anytime I visit someone in the hospital or someone who's sick, I'm going to remember to feed the heart and feed the state of mind because I'm not a medical professional.
Well, you're the familiar. Your face even. It's just, because your mom's in a strange place with strange people helping her, which is great because they're helping her get better.
Yeah.
But the familiarity is you and other family members.
There were nights when I could tell she was a little bit at war with herself because she would tell me, because she's my mom and she loves me and it's natural for her to care for me. She would say, "No, you can go home, baby." She would say that with her words, but I knew that she also liked the idea of knowing I was there. Because when I was there, there was a lot to do. And that's also me being the kind of person who the few times that I would doze off, if I would hear her trying to turn over or struggling or something, I'd be like, "What do you need? What do you need?
Yeah.
What do you need?" Kind of the same way you would do when you were a new first time mother. Like you kind of sleeping, but you're listening for every little squawk, But so mental versus the medical, let them handle the medical. The other thing that I learned is it is not what you think it's going to be. I knew that I would be spending a lot of time sitting in a chair next to her in a hospital room. I assumed that I would. We didn't know how long the stay was going to be. But it's not just sitting around with a blanket. And I brought a book. That's laughable. I never read the book. It's not what you think it's going to be. And I think it's Murphy who said to me early on, I called you and I was just expressing and giving you an update. And you said, "Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm a sprinter in life."
You are a sprinter, yeah.
And so, that helped me reframe it. So it's not what you think it's going to be. The ICU is not what you think it's going to be. The ICU is a busy place. And it's not just because of the old adage, nobody gets any rest in a hospital. They do have to come in every hour. They do have to check the oxygen. They do have to check this and that. And, when my mom, after her surgery, she wasn't allowed to have any water because of aspirating, because of her, they didn't want her getting nauseated. And so she couldn't even have water. So I was up giving her ice chips, a lot. It was busy. And I remember in my mind, okay, well, bring a book, bring a blanket. This is, you're going to be near, but I thought it was going to be slower time. It was busy.
Yeah.
Well,
the thing about you being a sprinter, which is what you are and who you've been as long as I've known you, is under normal circumstances as a sprinter, you also know that you will go take a break. Jodi's got this magic recharge of a 20-minute power nap, which we've talked about, I think, here on the show before, but it's really it works. It's who you are. It's how you are able to start your day as early as you do and still make it into the evening because you have a natural... You know yourself well enough.
I listen to my body.
Right, exactly. But you weren't listening to your body because obviously you care about your mom and you wanted to. But I could see that was beginning to become really counterproductive on you emotionally and physically.
I knew that it was a special circumstance, though. I knew there would, it's not really 100% over either because I'm still going to be at her house a lot. I feel like I'm still on alert. She's still a top priority for me, but she's so much better now that I'm slowly coming down from it. From the adrenaline. It is
so, it's really wild to me. But the surgery was Monday. She was first moved. She was moved out of, she was moved out of intensive care 2 days later, or almost three. And it was a little too early, and we were kind of wondering that same thing. And then rough night going back into ICU.
Very rough night.
But then
worst night.
It was literally just mind-blowing to me how fast the improvement then began, because in that 24-hour period, the next time I went to see her, she was like a different person.
When they realized what she needed and she was able to
articulate that.
Accept it.
Yeah, right.
Accept it.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
So it's never what you think it's going to be. If you went to the hospital with a family member 10 times, every single visit would be different. There's no predicting it.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There were days when I would go home and shower and go back really quickly before I'd even see you guys for the show or whatever. I would walk into that room and it's funny. I feel like life is that way. I'd be walking down that hall, bracing myself. Is she still going to be sleeping? Is she going to be having trouble turning? What's the number going to be like? And I would be telling my story based on, I had seen her 3 hours before. Based on what I saw 3 hours before, I know what I'm about to see. And I was dead wrong every time. In fact, my favorite one was the first time they got her out of the bed, sitting up into the chair. I happened to go down to the coffee shop, which I miss those coffee shop ladies. And I came back up and she was sitting in the chair eating pudding because it was her first day of soft food, after a major surgery, like with the swallowing and all that. And it's just, you just never know. It is such a roller coaster ride. Be prepared that whatever you think is, don't worry, there's no predicting it.
Yeah.
So and it's a beautiful experience. It's a beautiful learning experience of living in the moment. I'm not one day at a time for this, and I don't need to be. It's moment to moment. And I learned that I lived that for days, just moment to moment.
And the moment to moment thing is important because the outcome is not always the same, as you know. I mean, it's so wonderful that your mom experienced that, but you and I have also been in cases where that wasn't the outcome, but you're still grateful for the moment because if you're focused in the moment, you're present. You're present for whatever, for whatever changes.
It's exhausting to live outside of the moment.
Yeah.
What's the point? What's the point in my head churning about what could happen tonight? Because I'm going to see her tonight. But I'm not going to worry about that yet because I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I'm learning that the hard way, but I wanted to share that.
I love that.
The final thing that I learned, and we did do it in the show, but I repeated it to my mom last night, and I want to repeat it here. I repeated it to my mom because when the respiratory therapist told her this, she was in the ICU. I don't know if she remembers this. I don't know if her head was in the right place for this. But it's the flowers and the candles thing. I want to just say it one more time because I will use that for the rest of my life. We all need as much oxygen as we can get, and she had some oxygen issues while she was in the hospital. And the respiratory therapist said, baby, this is how you're supposed to breathe. And especially when you need a moment, if you feel short of breath, stop. You breathe in through your nose, close your mouth, breathe in through your nose like you're smelling a flower. Hold it for a second because the flower smells good. And then out through your mouth like you're blowing out candles. The flowers and the candles is the best way to breathe, even just to calm yourself.
Yeah.
If you're having trouble falling asleep, if you're having a moment where your boss is making you crazy, if you're in traffic and somebody cuts you off, flowers and candles, baby. I learned that, and I'm telling you, I'm going to go back to that hospital in a few days, and I'm going to find her, and I'm giving her flowers and candles or something.
That's the thing to me that fueled you in a very positive way multiple times were the nurses and the therapists and the people, those who were in charge, in the ICU itself.
I watched them.
Yeah. And so so many people just rallied around. It's the people part of it. And I know that that's the passion for the business when you watch what just these fantastic nurses do and the way that they handled your mom. Harrison, who walked in and called her my love.
Every time Harrison was on shift and he would come move her, help her, you could see her soften when he walked in the room because she really liked him. And he said, hey, how are you doing, my love?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, please stay. Can you work more than 12 hours?
Yeah. And the same thing with Danica and her mom.
Karen.
You have, once you're in there for a bit, you realize the people part and those strangers really, who are rallying around you can be your fuel.
They become like a little family.
And every time
community.
you would share that kind of story with me, it just made me feel better because I was worried about you the whole time.
I didn't feel alone in it. I'll say that. And in no way with the staff, with the nurses, and with my family, with everybody here too. It's definitely a big learning experience. So that's what I wanted to share.